only this conference, but it is to the entire nation of Barbados and beyond. Thank you. We get ready for the address by our political leader. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
In spite of her intelligence, her obvious intelligence, in spite of her charisma, is able to engage with people at all levels of society.
She has a very keen, clear understanding of all the issues, whether they be social, economic, governance.
I believe that the Barbados Labour Party not only presents a face of solid leadership, I believe that the Barbados Labour Party as an institution represents an institution that all of Barbados can follow. And that within our party, internally, I think that we are well led.
I've always been excited about her passion. Once she gets involved in something, she's very passionate about it.
She has worked in almost every facet of government at the political level.
She understands how important it is to get it right for the future development of Barbados.
We have a leader who is very charismatic. She puts things in place where the small man can understand where she's coming from, and he thinks she really cares.
Beyond that, she understands how they're important in making people's lives better.
Mayor creates a breath of fresh air. I think that what we really need in Barbados is not only a more youthful and dynamic approach, but I think that one of the things that this country has crying out for is the take hands, take charge, hands-on, take charge attitude that Mayor Motley brings to things. And I look forward to being able to work with someone with that very positive outlook.
I also see Mayor Motley as standing on the shoulders of all those who have gone before.
Ms. Motley has the vision, she has the capacity, and she has the team behind her to take Barbados to the next level to ensure that we correct the wrongs that have impacted on the lives of Barbadians over the last 8 years. I sat by her side, I observed her, I worked with her, I saw the vision in what she had done, and I saw the love and care and affection coming through for every member of staff.
She understands the value that Barbadian people represent in taking the country forward.
I think she'll be in a better position to carry Barbados forward and to deliver what is required and what Barbadians expect from a new Barbados Labour Party government.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished members of the Barbados Labour Party all. I want to say a very special good afternoon to all you lovely people, which I can sum up in one word: comrades. Naturally, I want to say a very special good evening to my friends in St. Michael South. It is my privilege this evening. It is really, most of the time we begin a speech, we begin this way. It is a privilege. But it truly is a privilege this evening to introduce Mia Amor Motley. You know, the first time I heard of Mia Motley, I was a very young man. It was in 1991. And I heard, as a young boy, seize and settle, according to Mia, because this party is about to do important work. I really want for us to get this right, because I know where Mia is taking this country. We all have to hear it. So I will give the sound man a few seconds, because this is important work. But the first time I heard of Mia Motley was in 1991. And of course, I was a very young person at that time. And the words that I heard, the words I think they're having a little technical difficulties, but that's all right. Technology will fail us, but the Barbados Labour Party ain't failing nobody. I am telling you, nothing is going to stop what is happening here. This energy is too strong, and we are too committed. But the words that I heard, this thing is on. Is it on now? Good evening. You can hear me again? Listen, I am so charged up, I would stand right here and preach it. But the words that I heard used to describe me back in 91 were words like bright, intelligent, promise, potential, back in 91. By 1994, we had come to realize that she was indeed intelligent. She was definitely very bright. We started to see the manifestation and the fulfillment of that promise. And we know for now, without doubt, that she will be perhaps the greatest leader the Barbados has ever seen. But you know, it is one thing to be born gifted, as Mia Motley obviously has been. But it is another thing to work as hard and to be as dedicated and to be as committed as Mia Motley is. And when someone is as bright as Mia Motley and works as hard as Mia Motley does, the results have to be, at the end of the day, success. Listen to me. I have had the opportunity now on more than one occasion to sit with Mia. And I am an expert in my field, I think, as are most of us in our individual fields. But when you go to speak to Mia Motley, she is oftentimes more prepared than you are. She seems an expert in almost every field. And she does it without being arrogant. It is a quality that very few people possess, and Mia Motley has it. I tell you, when I think about it, Mia is, in my mind, the perfect balance of life's paradoxes. Mia is cool and calm, but at the same time, she is forceful and fiery. Mia has this amazing knowledge of the law, and she loves the law. But I've seen her show such respect and love for the same people who break the law that she loves. I have seen Mia express economic policies better than the economists, yet she understands the social issues. She is local, she is regional, and she is international at the same time. And Mia Motley is a young woman. And at her age, she has done more than many people will do in a lifetime. And she has done it well. Mia Motley was the Minister of Education when we had a proper Minister of Education. Mia Motley was the first female Attorney General and the youngest when we had a proper Attorney General. Mia was an excellent Deputy Prime Minister. Just the beginning of the promise to be fulfilled when she takes that next step with your help in the next election. You know, Mia had the opportunity to be the chairman of the Caribbean Court of Justice, that committee that brought it into being. And if anybody here does regional work is a difficult thing because all the islands in the Caribbean have this sense of independence and this sense of autonomy. They all want to do their own thing, and regional institutions often fail. Mia brought the Caribbean Court of Justice to life, and that is a big thing. But the true measure of the woman was not that she brought it to life. Would you believe, or do you recall, when we had the issue with the prisoners, would you remember that on the day of the inauguration of the court, when Mia could have been sitting tall and looking pretty, she stayed in Barbados and moved the prisoners from Glenderry to Dodds. I want you to fully appreciate the measure of the woman. It was not about the glamour, nor was it about the glitz. Mia has no intention of making her life story a Pulitzer Prize. It is about the people. It is about you, and it is about me, and it is about your children, mine, and your grandchildren. Mia Mottley will make an excellent Prime Minister of Barbados. I can tell you all about Clico and how it is that when Mia first brought it to the public's attention, Frondell Stewart said she should have been punished with laughter. But 7 to 8 years later, we haven't received our money. I could also tell you about Cahill. I could tell you about the tipping fee. I could tell you about numerous things that Mia led. But I won't tell you about all of those things because her resume is so long and so accomplished that it would take me all day. But I will tell you this. Frondell Stewart may say Mia Mottley should be punished with laughter while Barbadians are crying. But weeping will last for a night. But joy will come in the morning. And what a glorious morning it will be. So I want you all to join me as we welcome to the podium the leader of the opposition, the political leader of this party. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Mia Amor Mottley, the next Prime Minister of Barbados.
What the song said, we are family. We are family. We are the BLP family. It is good to be here this afternoon. It really is. in the center of this country in St. Thomas, a parish that gave this country a premier and a prime minister. A parish that recognized the leadership of the Barbados Labour Party. But it is also good to be at Leicester Vaughan, because it is the poster child of Democratic Labour Party incompetence. This school was left abandoned in 1991. And one of the first tasks that Cynthia Ford and I had in the Ministry of Education was to take concrete and steel that was left there and bring it back. And before we went back to the people in 1999, we could report to the people of Barbados, the people of St. Thomas, to the school children, mission accomplished. Family, 4 years ago, we woke to the news of a second consecutive defeat of the Barbados Labour Party. It was narrow, but it was painful nonetheless. And our spirits were understandably low. Today, less than 50 months since that time of the last election, we are on the cusp of securing what I predict to you will be one of the largest victories for the Barbados Labour Party in many a year. Many comrades have said to me in recent weeks that they are feeling 1976, Sir Henry, all over again. In fact, some even told me that after the nominations, that there's another great combination in the waiting. I said to them, I would not plagiarize. What we have is the right combination for the times. So we are readying ourselves for it. And this time, we shall make good on the promise to remove this drifting, incompetent, corrupt Frondel Stewart-led government. And I know the word corrupt has been overused and thrown around over the years. But you know, trust me when I tell you that this is the most corrupt government in this country's history. I know what I'm talking about, and so do many of you. Indeed, anyone who spends their company among the business class will tell you sooner or later how business is now being conducted in this country by the members of this Frondel Stewart-led government. It is an absolute abomination to the memories of the founders of that political organization, the Democratic Labour Party. I make bold to say so. You know, we had prime ministers and ministers of government on both sides of the political fence. They would serve for decades. But when they finished serving, many of them still owed money on the homes and the vehicles. We had ministers who were still paying back loans to educate the children when they left office. But now, cars, and more cars, and houses are the order of the day. And you only have to come in Parliament on a Tuesday to see what I mean. And all of this is happening in the worst managed economy ever in Barbados, and with the greatest level of suffering ever in this country. But today is not the time, and this is certainly not the place for us to deal with the shady deals of a government and the enormous accumulation of wealth being flaunted shamelessly. A time will come for that, and they're going to have to account. And if they don't account in Parliament, and they don't account in the media, and they don't account from the public platform, rest assured they will account from the ballot box in the political courts of this country. You know, I'm listening listening to the people of this country, and the people are telling me that they want something done about this terrible blotch on our image. People don't like it. Never in all our years could the charge of corruption have been made against any previous Democratic Labour Party, BLP, in the manner in which it is being made today. And this time, I am telling you, there will be accountability. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this country needs persons in public office to be accountable. But as to us, we are called here to ask you to prepare yourself. We are girding our loins and preparing for battle. This is not a battle for the fate of the Labour Party. This is a battle not just for the rescuing and the resuscitation of the economy of Barbados. This is a battle for the protection of the social fabric of this country, for a return to that innate pride that we held and cherished so dearly. So the task at hand is much bigger than winning the upcoming election. That's just the first stop. The future of our country is at stake. And you know, in some respects, our election mirrors that of the one currently underway in the United States of America, where people wonder what will be the fate of their country after November 8th. This Barbados cannot survive 5 more years of Ferndale Stewart's uninspired leadership. It cannot survive another 5 years of incompetent ministerial leadership. And it certainly cannot afford another 5 years of rampant corruption. We need a rescue team in Barbados. And that team, I submit to you, is our remarkable slate of candidates who have readied themselves for the task of rebuilding Barbados. Barbadians need a team to rescue us from the government that is willing to pursue a new kind of governance. And I say to you today, in all humility, we, the Barbados Labour Party, are our country's best hope. I want to repeat it. The Barbados Labour Party is Barbados's best hope. And we will not just be the alternative. We must be the answer truly to this country's problems. And you know, I saw where George Pilgrim, poor fella, St. Thomas is not a place he likes to remember after Cynthia Ford dealt with him in 2001. But I saw where he wished publicly for an implosion of this Labour Party this weekend. He said we would emerge from this conference with 3 leaders. I think the 3 leaders he was thinking about was David Eswick, Don Valinis, and Chris Sinclair wanting to challenge Ferndale Stewart. But trust me, that was simply the Democratic Labour Party outlining what they believe to be their only hope for salvation in the forthcoming general election, that the Barbados Labour Party fades away and disappears. They have it wrong. And today, there's a lot of modern technology. Anybody who has George Pilgrim's number, take pictures in here today and send them to him for me. So, I am satisfied that there's nothing that this government can do to get back in the good books, because every time they're given a chance, they literally do worse than they would have done before. So let us move forward understanding that the narrative that they wrote and that they want to spread and that their spin doctors are about to release across Barbados is that it is a nonsense. And with that, let me say how happy I am this afternoon, not only having a team of nominated candidates, but to stand here and to salute the chairman of the Barbados Labour Party, who has been unanimously elected this afternoon, Mr. George Payne. George is one of the longest serving members of parliament in the country, far less in this party. And I tell you that he has the experience and the capacity and the commitment to this party to help run the affairs of the National Council and the executive as we work together with the parliamentary party to ensure that Barbados is rescued from the Democratic Labour Party. Our full support. But you know, coming together, as I said, is good. But I want to show you that where the analysis is showing that the Democratic Labour Party support is waning, look around and see how our support has been spreading and increasing. And the numbers of young people that have been joining this party are gratifying. Many are here today. They didn't just join for a nomination. They have consummated the relationship and come to conference to participate. And I want to thank them first and foremost and to welcome them to our midst. And we, the other members of this party, must welcome them because there are many also who are not here, but who are working selflessly behind the scenes to make the victory possible, not for the Labour Party, but for Barbados. This is what our country needs. And many have begun to realize that holding fast even to the Democratic Labour Party under the leadership of Funda Stewart and those other ministers may be deleterious to their own interests and the interests and well-being of the country. And many Dems have taken a principled stand against the attitude and behavior and also the lack of performance of this government. I say to you this afternoon that we have to be warm and welcoming to them. Never before will this country need more people to come forward and rebuild. We will need 70 to 75% of the people of Barbados to effectively implement our programs and to get them working in the shortest possible time. And many who have stepped forward and are supporting our party, they're not asking us for anything. They don't want anything. They just want to come as givers and to be able to put Barbados' interests first. And I want you, as you move around, and this is serious, to view each person that you meet as a potential convert to the policies and philosophies of this party. Do not make the error of believing that you know who are diehard Dems because you might be surprised. The very persons that you may be tempted to write off are already the ones who are given the greatest help and assistance to remove the Funda Stewart government and to be able to place our candidates into Parliament. So, let us be clear about that. Our internal elections, we await the rest of the results, but whatever the results, I would like to congratulate all of the persons who have come forward to serve on the executive of this party. And I want to say to them that George and myself will need your support and the party as a whole, because this party has serious business at hand. And our National Council, working alongside with the parliamentary party, will provide a fine machine to secure the victory that must be the country's. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the time has come for us to also ask many of you to ramp up and to translate your membership and support into more tangible service for this party. I want to congratulate, for the last year, those who believed that it was their duty to go out and help us find candidates. We thank you. because the team that we have assembled now is one in which Barbadians can be well pleased. But it was you, the ordinary members of this party, who brought Barbadians from all walks of life. And on Wednesday this week, we had our last nomination. And on Thursday night, the National Council of Barbados ratified those persons in the constituencies not currently held by the Barbados Labour Party. They will be a fine team. But yesterday, I met with the General Secretary of this great party, and we settled the laying of a resolution to conference, asking the highest decision-making body of this party to consider tomorrow that all 12 sitting MPs be now nominated and ratified by this annual conference, so that we leave this school with a full and complete slate of candidates ready for the battle. So when I tell you that this is one of the best gathered teams in politics in the Caribbean, I say so confident that 10 of the 30 give us the experience to move forward. 10 of them have served in a previous Barbados Labour Party administration at the highest levels in cabinet, all but one who served only in Parliament. The other 20 have never served in a government of the Barbados Labour Party before, but come to this party with the passion, the experience, the commitment, and the integrity to serve their country, but above all else, their communities. And I say that we need to constitute a government with honest, caring, and public-spirited Barbadians who will then work with others to rebuild this country. Barbadians across this land have been pondering about their future. They've been pondering about the insensitive incompetence and corruption of the government. Indeed, many of you tell us that instead of a pathway to prosperity, it has been a pathway to poverty. Early in the new year, because we understand the importance of the team, we will present after Independence and Christmas in a detailed way each and every one of the new candidates, particularly given that 20 of them are new to the process of governance. So I ask you to stay tuned for the team that is the right combination for the times. But you know, we will not only be relying on the candidates. That's not how this government does business. We have in this room over 200 years of experience, from Sir Henry to Sir Richard to Dame Billy to Sir Louis to Delisle Bradshaw from the Tom Adams government. We have people like Reginald Farley and Anthony Wood and Cappy Greenidge and Erskine Griffith and Noah Lynch and Elizabeth Thompson. All of these are reserves on which we can help draw. But then again, there are also others of you who have served at the national level and have never brought yourself or the institution that you serve into disrepute, as others have done. So we start with a good foundation. But as I told you in the 75th anniversary of the call to arms, this party must and shall also work with other Barbadians across the board who share our vision on objectives and our objectives on individual issues that are in the interest of making this country a better place to live, to work, to rest, and to visit. And that we will do so without requiring of those Barbadians loyalty or membership of our political party. This party does not believe that we're the only ones imbued with wisdom or the right to have a seat at the table. Once you are prepared to put Barbados first, we need you. So let me be clear. Under a new Barbados Labour Party government, This vicious and self-defeating tribalism that places party survival at the center of too many decisions shall be a thing of the past. The excessive partisan behavior has hurt the central bank, the police force, the law courts, schools, and too many of our institutions. It has alienated too many Barbadians who simply just want to make a contribution to make their country a better place. And you know, these young and more mature Barbadians know that as we move into the next 50 years of nationhood, that better can be done, and we must make room for them, and we shall make room for them. So our commitment to end tribalism and to fully engage Barbadians at home and abroad is all the more relevant as we stand on the eve of the 50th anniversary of independence. You know, the Frondel Stewart government would have you believe that the opposition has been less than supportive or cooperative with the 50th independence celebrations. This moment in time cannot be confused with the fact that since independence, the Barbados Labour Party has held the reins of government for 24 of the 50 years. More importantly, Barbadians have lived better under BLP governments. The charge of the party being less than cooperative could not be further from the truth. Independence is not a moment in time. It is a journey of cooperation between the government and the governed. But I say to you that in spite of this government never once consulting with us, and you can ask the General Secretary, we have deliberately not sought to undermine the celebrations because we believe that 50 is a landmark deserving of celebration. It is just how you celebrate it. And what, however, we recognize at the same time is that there are a lot of Barbadians who are being truly reflective at this time and who are not particularly proud of where this last decade almost has kept us. We are not where we thought, Sir Henry, we would be 20, 30, or 40 years ago. Indeed, the truth is that there's very precious little in almost the last 10 years worthy of celebration. And that is what this government is not recognizing, even as they pray and aid Rihanna. We are in a sad state at 50, and we take no joy in reflecting on it. And I ask you to walk with me and ask yourself a few questions. How did we get here? That was the question asked by a former leader of the Democratic Labour Party, Sir Lloyd Sandiford, recently. How did we get here? Because 60 years ago, after we started the journey for all Barbadians to be able to go to school and the university without worrying about how they're going to pay to get there, how did we get here? After we looked 60 years ago to introduce the first suite of labor legislation to ensure that the descendants of slaves could no longer be treated as beasts of burden and be exploited for the labor, how did we get here? 60 years after we carried the delivery of health care to a new level with the construction of a Queen Elizabeth Hospital and polyclinics, Dame Billy, how did we get here? 50 years after we established a national insurance scheme, and 35 years after Tom Adams introduced unemployment benefit when other countries could barely conceive of it, how did we get here? 35 years after Tom Adams ensured that the people across Barbados and the tenantries could be able to buy their land at 10 cents a square foot, how did we get here? And when 20 years ago the Barbados Labour Party said that it was not sufficient to be restricted to rural tenantries, but that there were people in urban tenantries too who should buy at $2.50 a square foot, how did we get here? How did we get a water authority that was left with accumulated surpluses, now broke? How did we get here? 15 years after Toppin, Ronald, you helped lay the foundation for the modern economy with the Fair Trading Commission. How did we get here? And above all else, and I thank Ryan for his work, 52 years after fiscal discipline, from 1955 to 2007, from Grantley Adams to Errol Barrow to Tom Adams to even Erskine Sandiford and Owen Arthur. Not even Owen Arthur, even Erskine Sandiford. Don't get tired. 52 years of fiscal discipline. And now since 2008, profligacy and fiscal recklessness characterize the spending of the government of Barbados every single year, without exception, since 2008. How did we get here? And who don't ask, how did we get here? When you travel overseas, they ask, how Barbados getting so? It is no wonder that Barbadians are not responding enthusiastically in the way that this government believed that their 50th anniversary independence celebrations would go. For many, Cynthia and Dale will tell you, others in the north, Peter, George, their constituents cannot get water. Others cannot get their garbage collected across this country. People are struggling to pay their rents or to pay their mortgages. People cannot find jobs. Many of these youngsters, I went with Martian in Marl Hole, and the majority of the 20 young men that I spoke to were under the age of 26, and not a single one of them had ever worked in this country since leaving school. For our people, many of them, these are our darkest years. And we understand why they feel that way. Because almost every sector is in crisis. People are frustrated after 8 years of a failing economy, after a homegrown crisis. It didn't come from internationally, outside. It was homegrown. And Bajans watch on as the same handful of people, in the now memorable words of Lil Rick tell you, I get through. And even their own supporters in the Democratic Labour Party are smelling hell. That is why they are in trouble today. People want transparency. And the stories of the shoddy deals are just hurting us. It is just like salt in the wound. You understand that this is Barbados we're talking about? You know that I'm not talking about another country somewhere else in the world. And we've been saying it to you for the last few years. With each downgrade, we've said it. With the increasing reliance each year on national insurance scheme and the central bank having to finance government's deficit, government's runaway spending. And you know, what happened this week again? That with the release of the central bank report, we learned that since we met at annual conference last October, the central bank and the NIS have had to provide almost $1 billion more in government funding, government securities to allow this government to spend in the last year. The exact figure is $920 million from the central bank and the national insurance scheme. And what is happening? Every minister dodging the bullet. Dodging it. If we didn't know better, we would have thought that they were all auditioning for a remake of Shaggy's It Wasn't Me. Minister of Finance to the Attorney General, it wasn't me. Minister of Environment to the Minister of Agriculture, it wasn't me. And you can't leave Kelly out at all, it wasn't me. If we cannot blame them, if they are not prepared to be accountable, then they must do the decent thing and leave and let us get on with it. But what makes this moment particularly poignant and challenging in our history is that while we may have had aspects of these crises before at different times, we have never had to confront them all at once. Barbadians are being now accustomed to being close to the bottom of the ladder. This week, the Ease of Business report comes out. Number 117 out of 190 countries. When we go out now to attract increased investment to provide jobs and to earn foreign exchange for our countries, investors the world over will remark that it is easier to do business in Jamaica and to do business in St. Lucia than it is in Barbados. The Global Competitiveness Index, we have gone from number 55 to number 72 between 2014 and 2016. And there was no report in 2015 on Barbados because they didn't submit. And St. Lucia is still ahead of us in the Global Competitiveness Index. This is what Bajans have been feeling for the last 6 years. And every poll that has been done in this country has said basically that 2/3 of Barbadians have been saying consistently, this country is on the wrong track. The problem is, it doesn't move the Prime Minister, nor his cabinet. We have learned the hard way that unless it affects them personally or politically, and even then it got to reach a crisis, this government will not speak or act. Barbadians catching water. You hear what I tell you? In buckets, and they'll getting a water bill every month. It is immoral to charge those people a water bill in this country when they cannot get a drop of water. Ministers come in to ask back for 10% restoration of salary when public servants can't get a cent in pay increase in the last 6 years. I say to you that it will take an extraordinary effort for our team to rescue Barbados and transform this country, to rebuild trust and to restore hope to our people. It will take creative and innovative strategies. And as I said, the majority of Barbadians putting their shoulders to the plow. We will have, and let's be clear about it, to share the sacrifices fairly in order to go back on a steady platform so that we can then embark on the journey of transformation and bring about the real and authentic change that people all yearn for. And you know, and I know, that this party has done it before. The Right Excellence of Grantley Adams was called Moses because he took an oppressed people and put them on a path to be treated with dignity and to wrestle the horrors reflected so poignantly in the Moyne Commission that represented how people lived before the 1937 riots. We did it with Tom Adams and the Great Combination, who inherited an economy that was broken out of the oil energy crisis and who inherited a country that was putting 14-year-olds out of school. We did it with Owen Arthur and that team which many of us joined. When we came to office in 1994, after 4,000 public servants had been left on 8% salaries, 8% cut off the salaries. But you know what? Each time we came to office, we listened, we acted, and we governed in the interests of the ordinary Barbadian, such that we left the country each time in far better shape and more hopeful than how we had found it. And I am here to tell you this afternoon that God willing, and with the will of the people, we can do it again, and we shall do it. We recognize that there are many who are doubtful, who have allowed hope to elude them. And even some who believe that we, Barbados, are simply a victim of the times and the international circumstances, even though other countries doing better internationally. Many have come to believe, regrettably, that it is beyond us. And this is sad. I have said over and over that the government's greatest crime will be recorded as their efforts and their success in shattering the dreams of many Barbadians and robbing them of hope. I take no more comfort today in saying that we saw this coming across the Atlantic from the Cape Verde Islands. We saw it as a depression, and it moved into a storm, and it moved into a hurricane, and it's gone from a category 1 to a category 2 to a category 3. And while your government failed to take decisive action, this party determined that it had to prepare itself and ready itself, and so we did. Given the severity of the challenges, we took a historic decision at annual conference last year that Barbadians need hope more than ever. Hope. And against that background, annual conference approved the essence of the Covenant of Hope. After its refinement, I am happy to report that we were able to launch it at Solidarity House, not chosen by accident, on the 6th of May this year, and that we have been going from parish to parish to parish, consulting and hearing the views of Barbadians on it. Our covenant lays out the basis for the restoration of hope to this country. We are of the firm conviction that our people, particularly young people, will not gravitate to us as a political party unless they are clear about who we are, what we stand for, and what we will fight for. They're not coming out of blind loyalty just so anymore. And it is in that vein that we produced the document to provide clarity, not because we were formulating new philosophy, but we needed to capture it and let people know that ours is a mission of enfranchisement, empowerment, and inclusion. We felt also that it was more important because there is no common thread running through the arbitrary and incoherent policies of this government. There was a time when the Democratic Labour Party stood for something. It doesn't now. So, you know now, and you have the confidence of how a future Barbados Labour Party government will act in your name. And when too many are doubting who we are as a people and what we should fight for as a country, when others can tell me, oh, we could let education go, it is critical that people in Barbados know what this party stands for and what our principles are in a 21st century Barbados. Because I am telling you, hope can and will return to Barbadians, and confidence in our future when there is clarity of purpose, creative policies, and the discipline to implement them. The transformation of this country requires, and listen carefully, individuals or groups different in power and capacity, but each acknowledging the integrity and the sovereignty of the other, pledging themselves in mutual loyalty to achieve what they cannot achieve alone. That is in our covenant for you. In simple terms, that all of us must be in this together. So, we, above all else, tell you that that covenant is to restore trust. Because without trust, we will not get very far. And you know, when we focus on these things, it is because these principles must underpin our actions as a government. And you have to bear with me this afternoon for a few minutes, because many ask, and I'm tired of it. I'm not fooling you. What is the difference between the two parties? I have to confess that I take umbrage sometimes at this question. The thought that we could be compared to easily the worst government in the history of this country is a difficult pill to swallow. But when I get past that moment, I understand what really has happened. How this government has so destroyed faith in the public space. How they have caused Bajans to doubt themselves. How they now prefer Bajans to side with the darker thoughts of fear. Because people don't want to hope that tomorrow will be better and then get that hope exploded. You know, when you're hoping for something and it get dashed, is the worst kind of hurt. People doubt today that politicians want to serve the public. They believe that politicians come out of a desire for self-service. They reflect that this government has perfected the art of dictating, not communicating. But you know, it is so human to want to opt out when too many of our citizens tell us, well, we done with that. It's human. But let us remind them that it is also human to summon from within the resolve that we can conquer, and much more we can do so when we do it together. It is our duty to take on each and every one of our citizens who right now are in this moment of doubt. And you know, our success, as I said, will rest on the restoration of confidence, the returning of trust, a climate of stability, but also the flexibility to adapt and to change in accordance with the new human needs and the advances in technology. Against this background, I'm going to set out very clearly for you this afternoon, short and in simple terms, how we differ from this government and how we will differ from them. Because the truth is, I do not intend to be exhaustive because we don't have the time. But what I will do is to address the fundamental question of the role of government and the need for a new governance. For the fundamental difference between the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party is how we address these two issues. What is the role of government? And I say to you that we will chart a bold new course to transform this country, because it is not sufficient for us to win an election to be the alternative, but we must be the answer to making this country capable of providing the best for its children. Between now and elections, we will continue to detail in very clear discussion papers what we believe will be that clear choice for you, the people of Barbados. So I don't need to remind you that at the core of our challenges is the role of government in its fiscal affairs. And the last few years have shown that if we do not get this fiscal crisis corrected, government does not have the freedom to deliver the social services to our people, to provide infrastructure, the roads bad, to protect our people, and to spur growth in this economy. The biggest challenge to Barbados' stability and our way of life is how we get out of this self-inflicted crisis. And listen to this very carefully. Barbadians are spending less today in 2016 than they did in 2008. This is an amazing statistic of failure, you know. When we consider that Barbadians are at the front line of adjustment, bearing the heavy taxation, enduring without salary increases and suffering reductions in their wealth, the sacrifice has been in vain. 3,000 asked, why have we gone home if we are still in the same position as a country? In contrast, the government is spending more today in 2016 than it did in 2008. The deficit is larger today than in 2008. The debt has doubled since 2008, and our reserves are at the lowest ever for almost 20 years. Yet amazingly, the services also delivered at their worst ever. Who has benefited from the sacrifice? Handful, maybe? It surely is not the people of Barbados. And it is not the business community. It is not those who govern in the interests of the people and lead in the interests of the people. What we have is a detached government. And yes, when you have to spend more money in paying interest, as this government has had to do, there is less money to do anything, less money to provide for our stability and growth. And the loss of investment grade, our downgrade to junk, described as by the Prime Minister as rubbish, makes it harder and more expensive to borrow what we really need to meet our genuine needs to stimulate the productive sectors, enhance our infrastructure, and protect our people. So it is now clear that we set out. Barbados must stop the bleeding. And we must do all that we can to return growth to this economy, because our revenue will never improve by taxing more, but only if this economy grows. There is compelling evidence that the ability to deliver social goods and services to Barbadians demands effective and efficient management of these resources. And therefore the journey, just as a journey of a million miles starts with one step, the ability to manage $4 billion must start with the first dollar. And I want to outline to you very quickly what a BLP government will be focused on in making these things turn around. One, the printing of money at the central bank must stop because it puts the Barbados dollar at risk. Two, we must set out to return Barbados' credit rating to investment grade because we finance our development not only from concessional sources but from capital markets. And in so doing, we will have to abandon the failed policies of the DLP-style fiscal consolidation, tax and austerity, and focus on growth in the productive sectors and growth in job creation. We must control the growth of our debt by both being strategic in new debt, as I said, and in growing the economy. And at the core of this is how we will address expenditure, our fiscal policy. And I say to you publicly and for the record, our policies will be guided by a few simple precepts. All expenditure must be assessed by what is essential, then what is highly desirable, and then what is optional. And in using that measurement, we hold faithful to these principles, that every Barbadian must have access to water, because water is the source of life. And without it, you constrain development and life. Two, Barbados must be a safe place to live, work, and visit. We must deal with the crime, especially the automatic weaponry. Three, no household in Barbados shall go. I'm very careful and deliberate. No household in Barbados shall go without a living income, whether it is from a job, whether it is from a pension, whether it is from NIS benefits, or whether it is through additional welfare-related benefits or government working with civil society. But nobody in the house must face a month after month after month without a cent coming in. It is the moral thing to do, and we can rise to the occasion because everybody must be able to live. Every young child in this country must leave school with a certificate or a skill, whether it is CXC, CSEC, or NVQ. If we cut education now, we will be laying the destruction of this society. And to that end, everyone who wants to go to tertiary institutions must be able to go without worrying how they're going to pay. We understand that government is about choices, but we understand that we must make the right choices to secure the stability and prosperity of the people of this country. Every Barbadian must be able to manage their own health care. And in that regard, our government will make a paradigm shift in its approach to health and refocus our energies and prioritize expenditure to promoting wellness, not simply treating people. To that end, we will not speak of a ministry of health. We will have a ministry of wellness, and it's not just a name, because our expenditure will be determined by how we can get you to adopt it. Because the more you adopt an approach to wellness, the less the country has to find money to do the treatment. And this has been the largest growing area of expenditure in this country for the last 40 years. And we must also protect our public health. Because you sneeze in St. Lucie, Peter, you catch a cold in St. Philip in Dar. We must protect. And Sir Henry and Sir Richard, I see you here as former chairman, our national insurance scheme, and restore its stability and enhance its independence. You cannot have a national insurance scheme where directors have a fiduciary duty to the people's money and then it being subjected to the dictate of being government's ATM. We will also, and I thank Dale for this, ensure that the nonsense of destroying the catastrophe fund is abandoned. Because with our passage of Matthew, we understand why we must strengthen it to put down money for a rainy day. We believe as well that there must be free universal access to Wi-Fi to accommodate learning and self-improvement in this country. Access to the internet is like access to education in the 20th century. This is the platform for power. And our people must not be denied if they live in Bay Land, if the mother can't pay, the ability for them to be able to get piece of Wi-Fi. Kurt, your people, Marshall, your people, Trevor, your people, everybody across this country, in the country from St. Lucie to St. George to St. Andrew to St. Philip, Bajans must have access. Because they must not be left out. And to those of you who scurry now to go and pay fees and bills, government taxes and fees, and when you get there, the line too long or you can't pay, Bajans must be able to pay also their government taxes and fees and fill out forms online at any hour of day or night, 52 weeks a year. The notion that people can't get something like a driver's license, or that we now impose new obligations on people to get a passport, go and get a birth certificate. Why am I going for a birth certificate when you give me a passport before? What madness is this? To collect more money when you have to go and pay for the birth certificate? Barbados, my friends, must also transition by 2030 to be a clean energy society, starting with the conversion of all public transport and all government buildings. And we must reduce to as close to zero. There's never perfection, but to as close to zero what is now disposed of as garbage. I am tired of this 30-year-old debate. It must be brought to an end, and we must become a model country. And if it means that it is time we take decisions to ban plastic bags and styrofoam as the first start, let us start here today. And most professionals and most people in politics don't appreciate the value of public transport. But you know the majority of Barbadians depend on public transport. And therefore public transport must always be reliable and affordable. The notion of the government not having sufficient buses and people's employment being threatened cannot be a part of a modern Barbados. So when I tell you that we will assess what is essential, what is highly desirable, and what is optional, this is the plan against which we will do it, because we understand that hard decisions will have to be made. But separate from government's power to tax and spend, on which we have placed excessive reliance in the first 50 years, we must now creatively and deliberately use other powers of government to spur economic growth. And we recognize that the use of these powers will not add significantly to the debt or deficit, but they go a long way to bringing growth. I'm talking about the power to legislate, the power to facilitate, to regulate, to empower, and to invest. And I will not go into all of the details, but I will have them for you in my written presentation. Through legislation, we must pass legislation to create new financial instruments to allow Bajans who now get less than 0.35% in interest in savings deposits to be able to get a higher rate of return, because Bajans must help build out this country along with foreign capital. There is too much liquidity in the banking system at a time when Barbadian businesses and households need access to money to expand existing businesses or to create new ones. And unless there is new and safe instruments, especially for a typically cautious population as we are going to suffer. We have to support it. We must introduce early on a legislative framework for reverse mortgages. It doesn't cost the government anything, but what it does is to unlock capital, unlock money for people who have retired, who may be asset rich and cash poor. And when they get the money, they will spend it to help the economy go forward. We can facilitate, and I have said this over and over, the reclamation of 2,000 acres of land so that we can have green field property for our new tourism build out. And we do this not by adding a cent in public debt, but by passing legislation, because as Sir Henry would tell you, land that is reclaimed accretes to the Crown, and the Crown then through statute can determine how that will go. But we will only do it after the appropriate social and environmental impact studies are done, because we will not compromise future generations of Barbadians. For those who say it is a pipe dream, Grantley Adams took away Pelican Island, and people like me born around independence have never seen it. So if he could do it 65 years ago, we can do it today. Our government must be able to facilitate, and we must stop talking about the intention to improve the ease of doing business in this country. Every week a government minister, every week a politician adopt the slogan of Nike, just do it. And we must move from immigration to town planning to every single department. Understand why we have these rules, deconstruct them, how we protect the public interest, how do we fight against the public mischief, and can we do it better with the technology that is available to us? Our population deserves better. And we can facilitate and improve our economic growth with minimal addition to government's budget. As to empowerment, there has to be a mature discussion in Barbados on divestment. I am not going to be cute and do like the Dems and use the P word, because Donald Trump has shown that that is a dangerous thing to do. But there has to be a mature discussion on divestment. And this government has to be told that it cannot be used, if it happens, to consolidate wealth and power, nor monopolies. This Barbados Labour Party, and Sir Henry, you were the leader when I joined, was founded on and promoted economic enfranchisement. That Barbadians must be empowered and enfranchised. And we must do it not only for Bajans to own a piece of the rock, but Bajans must also have a piece of the action. And we are very clear on it. As to regulation, regulation has an impact on all businesses. It can make businesses make money or lose money. And we need to go through once again to ensure that there is not regulatory tyranny, but that we move the undue obstacles while ensuring that regulation is appropriate always to risk. And finally, a state has the power to invest. And while we don't have the ability to be liberal in that respect, and it has to be used sparingly, we recognize that there may still be instances where this country is going to have to involve itself in some state entrepreneurship because of the state of the private sector. But we hope that it will be cooperative and joint and not on its own. So, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that through the use of these powers, this government could have brought back growth to this economy every long time since. There will always be light with the Labour Party, can't you see? We believe that the government of Barbados, under the Barbados Labour Party, must also use government procurement and government assets to assist those citizens who need to be reintegrated back into the society because they've lost their jobs or key contracts, and in using the policy of government procurement and government assets to help them, it will also allow us to restore macroeconomic stability while helping our people. But what of the role of governance? As we turn 50 and beyond, a fundamental change is needed in how we govern ourselves. You heard Reverend Morris last night detail them, and I won't repeat it because he did a good job to detail them. I must tell him, though, that the Barbados Labour Party does not subscribe to any kind of dictatorship, benevolent or otherwise, and that the BLP will take the hard decisions, but always respecting the precepts of democracy. We will tackle head on, key issues like tendering and contracting that breeds corruption. We will establish a standing commission on corruption because this country needs that now to wrestle it to the ground. We will restore faith and confidence in politicians, the political process, and in government. And we will have a simple regime for delivering on the promise of improved transparency and that zero tolerance for corruption. But above all else, we will talk with the people. We will develop consensus where possible. And where not possible, we will govern, having heard the views of all. And this is an immediate priority. And we have shown it to you by how we have done our business in opposition. There must also be reform to Parliament. Our Parliament has not been reformed since 1971 in any major way when we moved from single member, double member to single member constituencies. And our people must be able to come to Parliament and play a vital role in being consulted and being heard. And as to the social partnership, we must broaden and deepen it. Civil society needs to be included, and we must re-establish priorities for transforming Barbados, and the place to do that is the social partnership. Why has this government not used it? I'm also saying to you that the social partnership is key to restoring a settled industrial climate. Our industrial relations climate has been spiraling out of control for the last 2 years. And there are threats to undermine further the gains that have been made by labor and civil society and ordinary people. And anybody who wants to stand up to this government is now threatened by intimidation, as the president of the NUPW was. These things must stop. And we must hear the voice of the social partnership, not just individuals on it. Because the voice of the social partnership cannot be seen to condone breaches of the Constitution. Our Constitution guarantees the right to freedom of speech and the right to freedom of association. And the notion that we can comment in private on it and stay silent in public is a regrettable thing. We have to foster, and Billy, this is your influence on me, better relationships between generations. We have to develop the consensus as to how we behave today, because we know that we have to pay back and we have to pay forward. And if we understand that we have to pay back and we have to pay forward, it brings clarity to the decisions that we have to make as to what matters when the resources are scarce. We need to understand, therefore, that a new governance will give a greater role to Barbadians other than voting once every 4 or 5 years. And that the emphasis on the role of a new governance and the role of government that I just outlined to you is fundamentally what sets the Barbados Labour Party apart from the Democratic Labour Party under Freundel Stewart. There's no doubt about that. And for those who find that too esoteric to understand, let me bring it home for you. We will not take $28 million, Cindy, to build a multi-story headquarters for sanitation in Vaucluse instead of buying trucks that we would have bought all 35 for half the money. You want me to bring it down further? We would not build a Barbados Water Authority headquarters, as we said, when this country we knew as far back as 2007 needs desalination plants and a reverse osmosis plant, Trevor, for your people in the Bell. The conditions under which the people in Licorice Village and the Bell live in this country is a national disgrace. And I say to you that no Prime Minister could have any conscience and continue to allow people to live in those conditions in this country. It will not happen under Barbados Labour Party. And to the people in White Hill, George, you have struggled as a member of Parliament. You have sought to be able to bring a resolution to those people. And this government has treated them as if they're outside children. It will not happen under Barbados Labour Party. And the rest of the Scotland district, where Dale will tell you that the biggest problem is that the land is slipping at too great a rate. But no money being put in the Scotland District Authority to cure the ills of a part of Barbados that houses tens of thousands of people and is 1/7 of our land area. It will not happen under a Barbados Labour Party government. And you know what else will happen under a Barbados Labour Party government? The lack of accountability. If Freundel Stewart don't understand it, his biggest mistake has been not to hold his government accountable. He has a pop kite government, a set of pop kite ministers. We will be accountable. And let me be clear. And anybody who served as Attorney General would understand what I mean. I can never say that we will always be perfect, or that we will never make mistakes, or that there may not be inappropriate actions under a Labour Party government. But when it happens, we will be accountable. An Attorney General cannot tell you that a member of the police force will always find himself on the right side of the law. But when he finds himself on the wrong side of the law, we know how to deal with it. And what matters is holding people accountable. You cannot want to be at the table, get there, and then deny that you are responsible for what has been done or not done. That is what allows confidence in our government to go. And we have to maintain it. There is no confidence when minister after minister fails to talk when the press call them and ask them about what's happening on the issue. Mum. Unless it's Kelman, of course. And there can be no confidence when dodgy contracts like Cahill are signed. 4 ministers sign them before the rest of cabinet agrees to it. But worse than all of that, the Prime Minister allows the debate to go on for months and never tells us that he was the first body to sign 6 months before the ministers. cannot only hold the people of Bush Hall and Parish Land and Deacon's Farm accountable and hold them before the law courts. We must be even-handed in dealing with wrongdoing in this country. And we must bring it to an end. The elitism and the cronyism that has come to characterize this Frondel Stewart administration. And before I finish on this point, when we have a speaker, we must be able to have confidence in our Speaker of the House of Assembly. If not, our young people will not support Parliament. And while I'm on this topic, I want to quarrel with winner. I won't quarrel with y'all. Because I don't know how all of y'all tell me on the ground and ain't come and tell me about the latest. Hey, 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 hey. I don't know how come you ain't tell me that I got another legal matter with the withholding of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars initially. And that they had to rush and get it paid before the BLP conference this weekend. But they didn't pay all. Frondel Stewart, when you gonna act? When you gonna act? When are you going to act and protect the institutions of this country? Joe Adderley, stand by, my brother. So family, I have taken perhaps a little time to go through the difference. But I ask you to understand why. Because you need the information to deal with those who tell you week by week by week that they don't know the difference between this party and the Democratic Labour Party. We said it last year, not in as much detail, and the year before. But if we have to say it every day and every week, we're going to do it. Because it is an abomination for us to be put in the same group as the Democratic Labour Party under Frondel Stewart and those bunch of people. So the issue for us is not competence. We have the skills and the experience, and some may even say that I might have over-argued it here this evening. There's one issue. And the only issue, people know that we have the temperament to listen. That's what rubbing shoulders and people's assemblies have been about. Rubbing shoulders to come workers and investors and sector by sector and employers. We listen to you. People's assemblies, because we believe that people who are not members of the Labour Party must have a platform to tell us what they think. And we have invited distinguished people to join us because it fosters debate. But the only question that people want to know, and you know it, and I know it, are you ready as a party? That's the only thing that people want to know, you know. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? And if we can answer that question, and if we can understand that each one of us, Diston, you are an ambassador to this party. Miss Walker, you are an ambassador to this party. Lillian, you are an ambassador to this party. Wayne Don't Mind the Church, you are an ambassador to this party. And Lithcott, you are an ambassador. All of the people who are members of this party are ambassadors. And we need to understand that what we do or what we say, Sam in New York, you, Jessica in New York, you, Boo in London, everything that we do, everything that we say will either help or hinder this party. And we have a mission to undertake. Richie Haynes once said that perception is greater than reality. And as much as we know we are ready, we have now to assure the public that we are ready. And whatever we do, whatever we say henceforth, from the members of the parliamentary party to the ordinary members of this party, you stand as ambassadors of a party that is on a mission, not to win an election, but as I told you earlier, to save and transform a nation. And I say to you that for those who say that we've had some challenges, yes, we did. That is true. But then so did Andrew Holness and the JLP in Jamaica. And they are now the government. And so did the PNM in the choice of its candidates in Trinidad and Tobago. Because politics and choice of candidates is always rambunctious. And they are the government now. And so did Chastity and Stevenson King. And they are the government now in St. Lucia. What matters is our ability to come together. And every time that we've had to do so in the interest of the people, this party has risen to it. This year, I want to salute my parliamentary party. Because all of the talk, people remember the negative, but they don't remember the good. And since January has broken out, this party has spoken with one voice, with singular purpose. And we have gone from estimates to a no-confidence motion, to a budget debate, to a march for justice, to the launch of the covenant, to this conference, to all of these things for 10 months. And we have not lost our focus because we have remained focused on holding this government accountable. And I say to the parliamentary party, I thank you in the presence of all of these people because you have done this country proud by standing up and doing your duty in times when people would want to create mischief. We are in this all together. And to the rest of you, as I come home, you have a role. And I want you to recognize that as an ambassador, what you say to help or hinder, and hopefully only help, must be treated too with your work colleagues, with your friends, your family, in the churchyard, after service, in the hairdressing salon and the barber, hairdressing and barber. Again, tired, don't mind. But you know I could talk for 5 or 8 hours, and I ain't doing that today. But the point is that wherever you go, and let me say that you have equally to make it clear that there will be zero tolerance for distraction because this Barbados Labour Party is focused and ready. And that the only thing we want to know is who wants to join us. Who wants to join us? We don't mean join only in form. Who wants to join us on this mission? And some may want to write, and some may want to call, and some may want to walk, and some may want to use social media. But I want you to tell them that as we move about, this Barbados Labour Party team of candidates will be available to you. And Bajans will know us, the team of candidates, by our commitment to purpose, by our integrity, by our empathy, by how much we care, by our accountability, and above all else, by our accessibility. That is how they will know us. And I ask you that when you ask people what they want to do and if they want to join this march, that you say to them truly, truly, that you can contribute and you can support. I have said that if we are not to be sacrificed, if we are not to have the interests of the majority sacrificed, because we become beholden to a few, that there must be campaign finance reform. But until such time, you have to help us carry the battle to ward off the evil of money from a few. It is a real thing. And it is a real mission from which we will not be distracted. Because that is this government's only hope. Just as We are Barbados' best hope. The Democratic Labour Party under Frondel Stewart's only hope is literally to buy an election. But as long as there's breath in my body, and as long as I have the capacity to move, and as long as George and Dale and Trevor and Glenn and Indar and Tops and Joe and Marsha and Adrian and all the rest of us, but we can't do it alone. We need you to help us in this battle. And I ask you, therefore, tell those Bajans come and volunteer and give us their time, their passion, their support. Never, never. And as of next month in November, I shall move my interaction with the public to a new level. Because our representation must not only be physical, but it must also be virtual. Every month, once a month, I shall be interacting with Barbadians here and overseas on Facebook Live, taking their questions and having the conversations with them, because we recognize that our government must be accessible. And I say to you that I hope all my other candidates will join me in this direction. We will also embark early in the new year on a series of cottage meetings. Yes, there will be the traditional public platform. Yes, there will be the traditional spot meeting. But cottage meetings are necessary because some of you want questions answered and don't only want to be spoken down to from a platform. We hear you and we will do it. So, help me. Let me help this country. We will give you some more in-depth details on position papers this year. We will launch our candidates early New Year after Independence and Christmas. But above all else, I can't do it unless you help me. And we must do all of these things because we understand that the first day after an election cannot be a bank holiday, but that there must be work from day one of a Barbados Labour Party government. So I say to you this evening that I feel blessed. I feel blessed, truly, to be leading this great political party at this crucial juncture in our history. I feel blessed because this conference will end without the bloodbath that was predicted by George Pilgrim, but in a purposeful atmosphere of brotherly and sisterly love. And I feel blessed because I am truly proud of the slate of candidates, from George with his over 30 years experience to young Neil Rowe and Marsha Hines, who are the youngest among the team. I feel blessed because, and thank the chairman of this conference, Peter Phillips, because he continued to meet the needs of the people of St. Lucie while meeting the needs of helping to prepare this wonderful conference here this evening. That is dedication to duty. And I feel blessed because we are on the cusp of hard work, but a great victory. We will not take anything for granted. But you must know that we are more ready today than any political party has ever been 15 months away from a general election. We are ready, Frondel Stewart. We are ready. And I ask you to walk with us, the Barbados Labour Party, brothers and sisters. You know the opportunities and the pitfalls. And you know what I've said can enhance and distract. Allow us to remain focused and tell them all, from St. Lucie to St. Philip, from St. John to St. Michael, we are ready. We are ready. We are ready. Good day and God bless you.
ovations are well due. Your ovations are well due. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of a new Barbados. Your ovations are well due for Mayor Amor Motley. She stood this evening, and this is an impromptu vote of thanks. You may sit, please. And our leader has demonstrated what leadership is all about this evening. She's given you a speech in which you've heard a repeat of the political values of the great past leaders of this party and of this country. Listen to our leader. We've heard the voice, the old voice of Sir Grantley Adams, who committed this country and this region to genuine regional integration. You've heard the voice of Sir Grantley Adams this evening. You've heard the voice of Gordon Cummins, who demonstrated that an even temperament is due within the capacity and the office of leadership this evening. You've heard his voice as well. You've heard the voice of the great Tom Adams, who modernized this country, Mayor Motley. The great Tom Adams, you've heard that voice this evening. You've heard the voice of Sir Harold Bernard St. John. You've heard the voice of Sir Harold Bernard St. John, who brought integrity, industry, and intellect to leadership in this office. That's the voice you've heard this evening in the voice of this lady, Mayor Amor Motley. And she tells you, and she tells this country, we are ready. Tell Frank Stewart, call it now. Mayor Motley is ready. The Barbados Labour Party is ready. Repeat with me, call it now. And I pause and tell you, you've also heard in Mayor's speech the voice of our dear leader, past leader, and he's deserving of some mention. A man who demonstrated style in this country. We've heard the voice of Owen Arthur this evening. And Mayor Motley is the present. Having heard this speech, you're in no doubt that this lady is ready. Tell Frank Stewart, call it now. Thank you. God.
Night this party gave Barbados Labour Party, but I want, on behalf of the members of this party, Rick Reed, the man who captures the essence of who we are. He tells you how we walk, how we speak, what we think, and the better I like myself is the one that can be true.
Get bandy people truck, but don't worry. Yeah, I get through, but don't worry, I get through, I get through. Woo! Don't worry at all, don't stress about a thing. I shot got a call, I get in a link. If you're ready for the election, put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Don't worry, I get through. Yeah. This the corner, and they talk behind me back like some informer. Take it low. Although they run them out, they think that freak that out. 2018 me, I come there run the road. So don't worry, I get through. Woo! So don't worry, I get through. I get through, me I get through. When I had one tear up pants, and them never ever want give me a chance. But I get the opportunity inside the community. Now them want know how we get we Louis V. But don't worry, I get through. Woo! I get through. So don't worry, I get through. I get through. You see, 2018, don't worry at all. Don't stress about a thing. A shot got to call. I get in a link. Can't stop me at all. Don't care how them try. Cause something ain't happen for me. I get in a blind. So don't worry. So don't worry. I get through. So don't worry. So don't worry. Hey, don't worry at all. Don't stress about a thing. A shot got to call. Call me again, win. Can't stop me at all. Don't care how they try. Cause when you see 2018, me again get a blind. So don't worry. Woo! Yeah! All the proud majors. Yeah! We coming down. We coming down. Majors! We coming down mad, 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 madder than anything. Mad, 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 madder than anything. Mad, 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 madder than anything. Our Bajan is a champion and coming out the way. When we turn up on the road. All but she might get flattened. You don't know what can happen when we turn up on the road. All but she might. You don't know what can happen. Hey, you see me walking. That is the Bajan in me, the people pumping. We celebrating 50, together jumping. In the road we making history, that's how we drop it. I's a Bajan, I don't give a damn. I can rep this Bajan flag. Anywhere I go, I can let you know. I can rep this Bajan flag. Take it up right now if your body coming down. Mad, 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 madder than anything. Bad, bad, bad. Madder than anything. Mad, 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 madder than anything. A Bajan is a champion. When we turn up on the road, all pushing mark. You don't know what can happen when we turn up on the road, all pushing mark. Hey, the place where I'm from, the women really look good in session. The people love to walk, they love to drink rum. But still will show you enough love. I is a Bajan. I is a Bajan. I don't give a damn. I can rep this Bajan flag. Anywhere I go, I can let you know. I can rep this Bajan. Take it up right now if your body coming down. Yo! Mad, 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 mad. Quite Humphrey, all the family. When we turn up, it flatten. Up on the road, it flatten. Up on the mark, it flatten. You don't know what can happen when we turn up, it flatten. Up on the road. Hey! Mia! Up the thing, up the thing. Let them know where I'm from. Up the thing. Lord, I's a Bajan. I don't give a damn. Take it up quick now if your man be coming down. Mad, mad. But she back. From me. So there how we campaigning. Yeah. Woo! BLP! We live in a world where haters speak full of bad mind and enemy. Woo! Inside of the bed, drinking rum.